start by sharing something that happened for me when I was at a leadership training in Colorado last month. And there's a practice that we do in authentic relating to release tension in relationships when you're withholding something that is in the way of connection. And I was there in a staff position, and in that capacity, there was a power dynamic at play for me in my role as lead mentor. And there were participants who had flown in from all over North America for this training. And because it was relational leadership, that was the subject of this work that we were doing together for 9 days. It was a residential program. So everyone's waking up and having breakfast and doing morning programming and all day from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. So we really got to know each other well. And about halfway through the program, one of the participants came up to me and said, "Sheri, I have a withhold for you." And this is part of the practice, is kind of identifying and maybe stating a why. Like, I would like to clear this with you in service of our connection, because I'd like to feel closer to you, and this thing is getting in the way of feeling like having better rapport. And I was all for it. I mean, this is the practice. So I said, "Yeah, what do you got for me?" And he said, "Well, I've noticed over the last few days that you seem to be one of the last to come into the circle and take your seat. And I know that because you're part of staff, you know, that this sort of modeling is important, and it feels out of integrity with me. And I wanted to just name it." And okay, so he did. He named this to me. And there was a part of me that could feel the defensiveness rising up. And I'm like, oh, here it comes. Here comes my defensive tendency, because I care about what he thinks of me. I care about the impression that it's making, and I'm wanting to quickly correct it. But as soon as I go to quickly correct it, what am I doing? I'm making it about me. And that's not the practice of authentic relating. It's staying with the person who has the beef, so that I could, in this case, understand what's going on. So I took a big breath, and I said, "Let me get this straight. You've been noticing that I've been arriving into the circle a little tardy or almost tardy, and you're worried about the impression that that's setting on the rest of the group. And you wanted me to know so that maybe I could course correct that. Have I got it right?" And he's like, "Yeah, you got it right. That's the whole thing." And I said, "Wow, I'm really glad that you shared this with me. And what I'm getting about you is that you really care about the quality of the container here. And you care about the quality of everyone's experience." And when I made a guess at what was important to him, which was the integrity of the container, he felt me with him. I still didn't defend or explain myself. I just simply said, "Yeah, I totally get that. You care about the quality of the container. I'm on staff, and you're wondering why I'm not the first one in the room. I get it." And he's like, "Thank you. I feel really heard. I feel like you understand me and you heard." And I said, "Now, are you open for me to share impact?" Which is the other piece of the practice, is like, now I get to say what that was like for me. Again, keeping it about me, not placing any blame or judgment on this individual that brought it to me. So I said, "Hey, the impact on me is that I feel like you don't understand what my role is here. Like, I feel misunderstood. That's actually what's happening for me, is I feel misunderstood in my role." And then when he invited his own curiosity, I was able to explain that I spend my breaks in counsel with people because my role is lead mentor. And so I'm there to be with people who might be having questions integrating the exercises we just did, or maybe they're having something personal come up. A lot of triggers show up in this work. So I spend most of my breaks in counsel with people and therefore I might tend to show up a little late. And once he heard that, he was like, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. And what we came together on is that there needs to be context set at the beginning of the course for this role that I had. And we agreed that the integrity was the important thing. So we came together in an alignment of values. And so that if he hadn't have said anything, there would have been this thing in the way of him respecting me more. But in clearing it, we got to realize that we had a shared value. And so this is an example of how leaning into authentic self-expression can actually aid in the connection that otherwise was missing. And I wanted to name this piece that I'll just speak for myself, that I spent a long time living like outside in, looking for external validation as opposed to inner authority. And this work has really helped me. The work of authentic relating and the practices has really helped me lean in. And this idea of seeking approval, like I wanted him to like me. And that's so normal to want the approval of other people. There's been studies done on it at UCLA where they monitored people's brain responses while they were playing a virtual game of ball. And what they found is that the brain actually registered social, what's the phrase? I have it in my notes here. Yeah, just give me a second to get back on track here. Social rejection. Yeah, so they were playing this game of ball, and then without notice, some of the players stopped passing the ball to the person who was being monitored. And they recognized when they zeroed in on the brain that it was happening in the exact same place as physical pain is registered. So they determined that just like our ancestors, if you got banished from the tribe, you would die out on your own. So the reason why it's so important that we became creatures who care so much about what other people think of us, it makes sense. It makes sense evolutionary-wise. So social exclusion threatens survival. And so we protect ourselves by adjusting our behavior. We set down our authentic self-expression in favor of belonging and fitting in. There's a quote from Mel Robbins, who wrote a book called Let Them Theory. And this book was about letting people do whatever it is they do and not have it affect you, that it isn't actually about you, what other people are doing. And in her book, she wrote, "When you stop trying to control other people's opinion about you, you reclaim your energy, your peace, and your power." And that's why the title of my talk today is Authenticity Over Approval. So that's what came up for me as I was reading her book. It's actually, I'm listening to it. I'm not reading it. It's an Audible book. But this book by Mel Robbins, and it totally aligned with what I had read by Brené Brown. There's a quote by her from her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, that goes, "Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. Choosing authenticity means cultivating the courage to be imperfect, to set boundaries, and to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, exercising the compassion that comes from knowing We're all made of strength and struggle. And nurturing the connection and sense of belonging that can only happen when we believe that we are enough. Authenticity demands wholehearted living and loving, even when it's hard, even when we're wrestling with the shame and fear of not being good enough, and especially when the joy is so intense that we're afraid to let ourselves feel it. Mindfully practicing authenticity during our most soul-wrenching struggles is how we invite grace, joy, and gratitude into our life. And so reflecting on that, people are going to make assumptions about us because we're meaning-making machines. So that's going to happen anyways. And so the most important thing the thing that I want to turn my lens to is being true to myself. Because everyone else is going to judge you just as they do, regardless. There's a authentic relating game we play at the advanced course, which starts off what I think you think about me is. And we get all of our assumptions out on the table. And so we come up to someone in the room, and when the bell goes, whoever we're standing nearest to, we stop and say, what I think you think about me is, and we keep going like that until the bell rings again and we find a new partner. And it's really illuminating. And as we get into discussions afterwards, it gets revealed pretty quick that these are all projections. This is all what we think about ourselves, that we're imagining someone else is thinking about us. And it became a deeper invitation for me to really be mindful of what I'm telling myself. Being authentic is so much more rewarding than living in some way that you think other people want you to live. I mean, I was going to tell you a story about how I was this old right now, when I actually told my parents that I identify as queer. I mean, literally, how did it take me this many years to finally just say it? I mean, I don't even get it. And now I feel so much closer to my mom. And it was so easy for them to just not know that part of my life because I choose to marry a man, and it all looks very heteronormative. And the truth is, I just have so much love to give that a boundary for me has never really been gender. And explaining that to my parents now, it's like I get to be seen in my wholeness. I get to be seen for all of who I am. And now I'm doing it here. I've been in some circles lately where I've noticed that individuals are starting to identify out loud things and feeling brave and taking up space that way. And I thought, well, here I am, a teacher of authentic communication practices, and I thought, well, what is it that I'm not revealing about myself? And if I did, could I be more fully known and loved? And my dad just looked at me and he's like, well, you've always been kind of weird. Yes, Dad. I've always been kind of weird. So we'll leave it there, and so it is.